Welcome. Today, a few of us Alveary moms are going to talk about why we chose the Alveary and what's working well for us. And we hope that these little testimonials could be useful for you. And to start, I'm Christina and I live in Southern California. And I have kids going into sixth and second grade this fall. And then I have a 4-year-old and a baby along for the ride. And go ahead and introduce yourselves, ladies.
I'm Bethany. I'm half Australian, but I live in Texas, and my kids are going into sixth, fifth, third, and then I have a 5-year-old as well, 3 girls and a boy.
I'm Amy. I live in Virginia, and I have older boys. I have 2 grown that are now 22, getting ready to turn 19, and then I have an 11-year-old. So I have one that went through the Alveary in high school, and the other one gets to go all the way through. So it's fun.
Great. So first, we're going to talk about why we chose the Alveary in the first place. Bethany, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So we were a couple years into what I like to call meandering towards a Charlotte Mason education. And I was really ready for a more robust feast to choose from with our subjects. My oldest was going into Form 2. I was adding a 3rd student that year, and I was just hungry for more, a wider feast, and also the hand holding to implement those subjects. And so that's really why I joined in the first place, particularly the geography and the Spanish were appealing to me. And then the videos and lesson plans that would accompany things like solfa and Sloyd and handicrafts. Those were the main things that were drawing me in the beginning.
How about you, Amy?
I agree with Bethany. I love that it was complete. It was a complete curriculum. I didn't need to go and try to hunt down a Spanish one and then a geography one. And I love that it was all together. But I also loved that it was a 4-year cycle, which coming from my classical background, I liked because that gave us 3 years to get through all the history streams. I also liked the idea of being in the same history time period as my high schooler and my first grader. So we got to combine a lot of things and we got to have those great conversations, many things we could do together as a family that I really loved. But probably the most important thing that I was really hungry for was I really wanted to dive deep into those subjects, really understand what Mason was after and what it looks like for a teacher. And so I wanted to have time to be able to really dive deep in all those subjects and give myself time for that. And you can't do it when you're constantly planning and trying to find the best books. And is this enough? And I love that it was rigorous enough, but it also had breadth. And I appreciated the research behind the books that were chosen and that they were the best. And so that was basically the reasons I chose the Alveary. But I can tell you, I went to a Charlotte Mason Institute conference, and that's where I met everyone and got to sit down and ask all my questions. So that really helped a lot to get to make sure we were all on the same page.
Great. And I love that research aspect too. I loved that Alveary was being made by the Charlotte Mason Institute. When I joined, it was the first public year, so I was definitely taking a risk. I couldn't get a ton of information about it, but just knowing that it was connected with CMI gave me a lot of confidence. And in a way, it reminds me of Mason herself. Mason was always staying abreast of the science of her day and the research and the ideas of her day, accepting what seemed true and rejecting what did not. And I think that CMI, besides the fact that they're reaching into the past with Mason research, they're also doing that same thing with current research. And so I feel like I can trust them. And I also, like Amy said, loved the idea of history, everyone being together. And having it be your home country. So if you're in America, you study American history first, and they offer Canadian. So if you are in Canada, you can study Canadian history first, and they've laid that all out for you. So we all were excited to join, I'm sure, and maybe a little bit nervous, but now we've all been doing it for a little while. So Bethany, why did you stay with Alveary? What made you want to keep going with it?
Yes, we are going into our third year. So it's the longest I've stayed with anything at this point in our journey. And, no curriculum is perfect, and Alveary wouldn't claim to be perfect, but yet it is an incredible tool. And I feel like through Alveary, I'm not only getting to grow my understanding of Mason's philosophy and how to implement her methods, but I also have the hand holding that I need to flesh that out practically. What do I do on a Monday morning while I'm continuing to learn and grow? And so I really couldn't ask for a better tool. I think what it's been for us is, it's so much more than a book list with Alveary. I've been so impressed with the robust lesson plans. There's just so much richness included, so many helps, different links and videos and maps and prompts and discussion thoughts to really help flesh out those lessons. So it's so much more than a page count or checklist, to get through. And so I'm continually blessed by just this beautifully curated feast that we have before us. And I think that, I've stayed because even though we all make adaptations and customizations for our individual families, and I think Alveary is a place that welcomes that individuality, but yet I have such a solid framework with which to move forward and to fall back on. It's pretty simple to get our year up and running or our week up and running because I have those plans ready to go, even though I can change them according to what my individual kids need. So that's given me a lot of confidence. Like you mentioned before, just knowing that Alveary is backed by the research of CMI. I feel like, Alveary represents that cutting edge research, in the Mason community. And I think that there is a whole team of experts behind developing this curriculum, and that Alveary has their own geography curriculum and their own modern language curriculum that really sets it apart. And we have loved those resources and have really thrived with those. So I think maybe something else is just knowing that Alveary is a dynamic curriculum, always responding to feedback, responding to research, looking for the best modern living books, that we are using the best of the old books, but also bringing in those modern and that are also living books. And so I really appreciate that, that even though Alveary is changing and it keeps us on our toes, we get the benefit of that. So, one more thing that's really kept me in the Alveary, honestly, it's the hive, the community. It's a gold mine. I feel like the support in the community, the resources that are so freely shared. I got off of a lot of other social media these past couple of years because I almost felt like I didn't need it to have that sense of support in this endeavor of educating at home. So I love the hive. That's been a real gift.
Great. Amy?
Yeah, I can pretty much say ditto to what Bethany said. The only thing I could think of to add to what she said was one thing that I loved was that we were able to do all the subjects, to do all the things. I love that we were able to stick to the timetable and to give our kids that time in the afternoon to do their own interests. My kids in the past, I really wanted to have that time for them to dive into college classes or sports or music, whatever they were. This is a very big thing in high school. I'm just having some downtime to be able to explore their own interests. With other curriculums, you're just not able to do that. So I love the rigor to be able to have all that, but being able to fit in every single thing else. The most important thing I would say, because I've done other Mason curriculums, is the love of learning was not squashed. In our past, we've had kids where in other curriculums and stuff that just really squashed the desire to love to learn. So that is one reason why I stayed with the Alveary, just because that love has not been dwindled away through the years. So
Great. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. All right, welcome back. So now that we've talked about why we've been with the Alveary and stayed with it, I think a lot of people are wondering, what could Charlotte Mason look like in the high school years? And I know that Bethany and I both are looking forward to that time and think that it looks great. And that's actually a reason to stick with the Alveary. But Amy has actual experience in this. So Amy, can you talk a little bit about how does Alveary give high school students what they need both for school, college prep, and even just life?
Yeah, so I touched a little bit on the previous question, but I would say the biggest thing is that's different from the earlier grades is that it's written to the students. So it already starts getting kids prepared to take ownership of their school, and they need to learn to manage their time and to get their work done. The book choices are awesome. I enjoyed reading them all. They're very rigorous. But like I said earlier, they still give them time to dive into their own interests. My high schoolers decided that they wanted to start college early, and so they took college classes in the afternoons, but still being able to do most of the Alveary in the morning times. I had one kid that was very deep in languages, and so he was able to do outside classes on top of the Alveary just with the language focus. So I just feel like it was just enough to provide them with what they needed. But I would say one of the things that it was critical to me for the Alveary in high school is some curriculums will tell kids what to think and not how to think. And so that was huge for me because in some philosophies, they will have a list of things that they want the kids to get out of something. And that is not a Mason education. And so they would really teach the child how to think and come up with their own just ways to come, to wrestle with these ideas. And I love the book choices because they are not like black and white. Some of them were challenging, but I thought it was such an awesome opportunity to be able to have those discussions with my kids before they headed off to college. And so they weren't like just tainted one way or another. They showed and presented ideas, and the kids had to wrestle with them. So for me, that was huge. And I have funny stories I can think of, but they're a little bit more Mason-y, but like languages, my kids were prepared. I know, like I have one kid going in the military, and the attention to detail, observations, all those things we taught our kids early on really helped prepare them. I know one fear for many parents is, are my kids going to be ready for college? And I can honestly say they will be way ready. Both of my boys have one graduated and one already got his associates, and they did amazingly well. They knew how to write. They didn't have to be trained to write every single year. It's not needed. And I had one just do Alveary high school and did just fine. Did really well. So I want to rest. I want people to rest and that worry about that. They will be just fine. But I just appreciated how much it prepared them for life. Life is not just getting a grade. It's not about just checking my box and getting this done. I love being able to see that my son has a passion of still going outside for walks or making observations or, being interested in books and reading. So I think the high school's done a really good job making sure that kids are prepared.
That's wonderful. That's so good to hear. So what kind of fruit would you say that you've seen having, younger and elementary age kids, Bethany? What kind of fruit have you seen because of the Alveary?
I mean, so much of the beautiful fruit we see in our home, it's Charlotte Mason. It's the fruit of her truths that she discovered about education that we're implementing. And it's a life, not just something you do for a certain part of the day. And I could go on and on of all the influences of Mason in our home that are beautiful. I think Alveary specifically, fruit that I've seen is just consistency in some of the subjects that I think possibly we would have dropped off, or I would have been intimidated by, or maybe never even picked up. And because I have the hand holding and the explicit lesson plans, and my kids are getting to experience a broader feast than we probably would have without the Alveary. Another thing is, what I love about this way of education is you have your stack of books and your stack of notebooks. It's so kind of organic, and I'm seeing beautiful things with the notebooking across subjects with my girls. And there's just a richness there that I don't know that we would have begun those different notebooks without Alveary coaching us through the tutorial on what those can look like and helping us get started. And so my girls are just experiencing a lot of delight in what they're doing and the connections that they're making between subjects in their notebooks using all kinds of different mediums. So that's been really fun, from, our Book of Centuries, and even now some architecture type drawings coming out, and science notebooking and different diagrams and paintings. And also, I really for a time felt that I needed to lean into other language arts curricula, and feeling equipped by what Alveary offers to really set that aside. I've seen my girls thriving in their writing and in their narrations because of the simplicity of the method, but also the support that Alveary is giving as far as helps in the tutorial of what narration can look like, and different composition prompts to give us creative ideas. And with what they're using now as far as grammar and kind of gentle composition instruction within that, really in the spirit of Mason, I'm just excited about where they're at and where they're going with their writing. So I think in all ways, we're really thriving, kind of like what Amy said, just having that schedule and really sticking with that has given my children time to explore in the afternoons. They're all little artists, and just having sheer time, to explore other things is such a gift, to not be doing school until late in the day every day. So Alveary's really helped us with that timetable and how valuable that is just to the whole atmosphere of learning in our home. I think one last thing, what's the fruit of Alveary? It's, for me, just the peace and the confidence I feel like I have, because I'm not going all over the internet trying to piece things together, or, well, I read about this in Mason's volumes, but I don't see that in this curriculum. Now I need to go find that piece. Where is that? I feel like I have simplicity. I have a one-stop shop for me to learn and grow, and for the resources I need to implement these subjects with my kids. And so there's just peace there. I think as I look forward to high school, I'm so impressed by what I see. And I love being a part of something I feel like we can really grow into and grow with for years to come.
Wow, that's great. And I would just add to what you said about the notebooking is that the lesson plans have suggestions for the notebooks already in them. So there's nothing wrong with coming up with your own, of course, and you don't have to use the ones in there, but they're there for you. So you don't have to come up with it yourself, or just drop it because you're not sure, what do I even put in this notebook? How do I start? It's like there are those prompts ready for you. So that's huge. Just everything is integrated across subjects. So Amy, yeah, how about you? How about the fruit that you've seen?
Yeah, I agree with all of you. The integration is amazing. The science of relations, it's really fun to see when my kids are like, did you plan that, Mom? And I'm like, no, I didn't, but isn't that awesome? And like just being able to see how things kind of work together. And I often wonder, man, did the Alveary plan all of this? Is so amazing. Sometimes it just happens, organically, but it's pretty wild to see the growth. One thing I love to see is the love of their learning. And I love how they take the information. One example is handicrafts. My son has taken them in all these 6 years, and he applies it to other areas. One of the things he did one summer was we did plastic canvas one year, and then he decided he was very big into astronomy and flying. And so he made a little balloon, a hot air balloon. I mean, it was just really cool to see how they're pulling in all these ideas that we are bringing, this large feast, and then taking it and applying it in summer and, their free time. So I just love being able to see it acted out throughout their life. That's probably the biggest thing I've seen.
Yeah. And for me, with the wide feast being available and with so much teacher support, it means for me that we end up doing some subjects that I would have dropped otherwise or not gotten around to. And I mean, it's obvious why that's so important if you know anything about Mason. But it's so amazing to see your children blossom with interests that are completely different from your own. And if you hadn't presented that, how would they have known, if you kept it limited to only what you're capable of? And at the same time, though, there's a big sense from the Alveary of moms and teachers being able to take care of themselves, whether that's through some self-education or reminders actually in the reflective practice to rest or to read good books or to just have some self-care. So that's been really wonderful, and having all the opportunities to grow as a teacher have been wonderful. So I would say for me, a lot of the fruit from Alveary specifically has been how much support they've given me and stretched me as a teacher and a mom, and how much they have these courses and lesson plans have stretched my kids. So every kid has their subjects, of course, that they're going to gravitate toward and will come more easily to them. And others are going to be more challenging. But the fact that you can say, well, we're just going to do this and we're just, it's just 10 minutes. You can do that, right? You can try and you can grow, and then it stretches them. And I think that comes back to the consistency thing. Because of the support and the lesson plans and whatnot, you feel maybe able to allow for that kind of stretching, where without it, I think, at least I personally would probably tend to just say, oh, well, we'll just drop that, and not deal with it. So anyway, well, thank you, ladies, for sharing today. And we hope that this little video has been helpful to you. All right. Have a good day.